Hi, everybody. My name is Maria Makeska. I'm following Tesla channel. I'm on Tesla Tube and Teslaiana also, and on Nikola Tesla channel. And today we're going to talk about some very interesting things going on in Sweden at the ranch or some projects that Simo Kruyt is having. So, Simo, can you please tell us more about it?
Absolutely. The project that I want to talk about is not so much happening in Sweden, apart from me being here in Sweden. The project is about Deepseek. Some of these people have heard about this new surprise that came in the AI world that has disrupted the old narrative and the old boys, such as NVIDIA, Microsoft, OpenAI, Oracle, and so on, by showcasing that there's a different way of doing artificial intelligence usage. What I've learned about this Deepseek, which is a Chinese firm that is the brainchild of a small inventor who figured out how to use artificial intelligence to help him build an investment portfolio. My understanding is now he has about 8 billion under management based on his success of using AI. He wanted to push it further to see if he can create an open source AI chatbot like the Chat GPT that a lot of people use, or Gemini AI, and so on. What he did is, before the clampdown of AI GPUs, which is processing for AI use, was enacted, he bought over 1,000 of those GPUs systems, the older versions. And he basically started working with the idea of creating a new chat box with less human involvement, mostly done by learning of learning, which is interesting. In other words, they actually created a tool who learns off the learning of others versus having to learn themselves and then be adjusted by human intervention. And based on that, they say that the cost was roughly 5.5 to 6 million versus the 100 million that often takes to actually build any kind of AI software. And what's interesting is, in terms of those units for processing information, they only use about 2,000 versus 100,000 for the traditional open AI chat GPT. Now, this is technical, but the main thing that you have to pay attention to is 2,000 versus 100,000.
Mm-hmm.
So, in other words, 2% of the use of the other. Now, how is that possible? How can you still have something that works? Well, here's what I learned today, actually, watching some YouTube channels that talk about this. They say that the Chat GPT model tries to take in the so-called thinking patterns of Einstein, the thinking patterns of Picasso, the thinking patterns of Shakespeare, and puts them all together to try to give you the answer that is most applicable to what you're looking for. What the new Deepseek program does instead is it says, okay, what is the type of information you're looking for? And only goes and processes information regarding that. In other words, if you're dealing with a scientific matter, you might follow Newton or Einstein. They're not going to have Picasso in there. They're not going to have Shakespeare in there because they don't need it. So based on that, you're much more likely to be able to get information without having to spend a lot of money, resources, and electricity, because AI uses a significant amount of electricity. So much so that the numbers that I heard recently is, in the next few years, we're going to have to double the energy output in the United States for electricity just to keep up with AI, let alone living. This model now, Deepseek, changes everything. Now, does that mean we're going to have less AI? No, probably even more. Why? Because the ChatGPT uses a system where they incrementally process information using their own proprietary systems internally, in terms of figuring out what's the first things that has to find out, the next information to get to the final result. What the DeepSeek does is it shows you first, first I'm going to get information on statistics. Then from statistics, I'm going to get the information on functionality. And then from functionality, I'm going to see how it works in marketing and so on. So it shows you how it thinks. And all that information, contrary to OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, DeepSeek does it all openly. So everyone can see exactly how it's thinking. What is the order of their brain processing? So they're not trying to create artificial intelligence, which OpenAI is trying to do it. They're simply trying to create artificial use of data computation. That's a big difference. So I'm excited in some ways. As much as I find AI scary, this means that anybody who has a creative mind, who is willing to learn how to program it, could learn how to program the Deepseek to actually make their own version specific to a certain industry. And that's pretty amazing. And I think that will also mean that the information will not be kept up only in one hand, meaning a few privileged people are part of the 1%, but you can have a lot more people out there, a whole bunch of essentially innovative geeks who are excited about something, who are going to want to create some tools for very specific industries, specific slices of the world. It could be for environmental, such as, okay, let's figure out how to plant trees so we get maximum use of the land, including the water and the temperature, for instance. Another one could be about, okay, how do we figure out how to put the pipes in the ground when we have limited space to do so? Whatever it might be. So any kind of human problem technically can be geared towards using some of these tools, using open source. Even at my age now, 58, I'm tempted to go back and look and see if I can learn this stuff because I seem to understand it, but without the coding. Now, probably I'm not going to want to do the coding myself, but the whole point is it shows that we can start using this tool on a much more friendly basis, less privilege, and less, I would say, limited to only a few who happen to have a lot of money. And that I find inspiring. Now, can we use this also eventually to even discuss the use of electricity production that a lot of people have been trying to push for, which is more of a 0 point technology or something to do with freer energy? I think maybe yes. But again, I don't know. The whole point is this has changed the map of the whole world. Now, stock wise, investment wise, the people in the US that are part of it, are they still going to be okay financially? And the answer is yes. Why? Because they're going to seem that to say, you don't want to give all this power to a source that is based in China. That's where the databases and the processing units are currently located. They're not part of the government, but they actually are part of a Chinese company. Now, the interesting thing about this chat GPT, well, not chat GPT, the Deepseek, sorry, it's pretty important. Because it is open source, you could actually load it onto a computer that is equivalent to 4 Mac computers. So if you had 4 Macs equivalent on a rack, you could actually have your own Deepseek server. And you can operate it without having to access information from China at all, without having to access the servers from China. And you can create it as a virtual machine. And that's really exciting. That you could not do with ChatGPT, Gemini, which is part of Google, or Copilot, which is part of Microsoft. So this is going to have a shakeup effect on the industry. So I find it
Great,
exciting as
great.
much as scary. So
So,
anyway,
what kind
that's
of apps can you do with Deepseek project?
you know what, I haven't researched it enough yet, but like I said, the interesting thing is you don't have to have it become a brainchild at everything. You can have it specifically geared. Could you technically make it to do energy work or breath work? The answer is yes.
Have
You can
you
actually.
tried to do anything with it, or you're
Oh, I mean, it's
no,
brand new. I mean,
not yet?
basically, I downloaded it maybe 3 weeks, maybe 4 days ago. I've used it for
Mhm.
2 days. Then the system got bogged down because I guess too many people were accessing it. But they say that Apple OS system, meaning the app that you can download, is now the most downloaded app on Apple App Store. Is it on the Google? I don't know yet. But that's pretty interesting. It says quite a lot. It says something. Are people going to tire from it? Are they going to actually be disappointed? Maybe, maybe not. But the whole point is DeepSeek can be made to function on a separate server that is not linked to any Chinese control. And that's where I think the real exciting avenue is. How people are going to use it, I think it's really is unlimited to the creativity of humans.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exciting because, the privilege of any industry is you don't want to have only a few people own it, control it. When more people can actually have it, that changes all the dynamics. I mean, for Mac Pros, if you count the computer costs, you may be talking about $8,000 or $10,000. So you can have your own artificial intelligence server for that cost. That's not bad. So it changes things considerably. How it's going to go, I have not a clue. But has it have a disruption? Absolutely, absolutely. And
Okay.
so I'm glad because it makes the whole idea of people that have been in power, people that have been controlling and limiting the access to different technology, become less hubris. In other words, less extreme, less cocky, less arrogant in their belief that they are the only ones who have it and will have it. And that's why people are scared.
Good. Good. Okay. So, where is this project available? Can I download it?
Yes. Yeah. You can actually, for the Deepseek, the one I did was simply downloaded from the iOS App Store. I suspect the Google Store or Android also has it. I haven't checked. But I also know that there is a system you can download to have it on your own Linux server. Meaning, Linux is a very basic, straight functioning with no bells and whistles. So you don't get the fancy color screens, you don't get the printer attachments and so on, but you can make it work. So I think it's just an interesting development in this world that we have this thing happen now. Um, where it's going to go, your guess is as good as mine. Lately I've been following SpaceX with their launches of rockets. I don't know if you have or not,
No.
but it's pretty interesting what they've been able to accomplish and how everyone is trying to compete with them, and they just simply have a hard time catching up because SpaceX now, I don't know how many flights they've done of the Falcon 1, which is the first ship, the rocket they put up in space. They've done like, I don't know if it's hundreds, something like, I think it's over 100. And now the new one, the Starship, they're already at version number 7. Yes, some parts do blow up and sometimes they don't do what they're supposed to do. But it shows you that we are getting leaps and bounds of technological innovation. And that's an interesting aspect of society. Now, if we take all this scientific information, all the financial stuff out of it, does it also affect people's connection to humanity, to their soul, to their soul's purpose in humanity and what they can live? And I think yes, absolutely. Because as we start developing our inner connection to ourselves, we become much more closer to source, which means that now we can pick up some of this technological information that already exists in the ether. So, could this be used as an enhancement for telepathy between two people? I think it can. Not to do it, but maybe to train you to have the exercises to do it. Now, I'm making this a big assumption. I haven't tried, I haven't looked anything else, but these are all little questions that I'm going to be querying and asking this engine what it comes up with, if anything. Because this engine, compared to all the other ones, it learns by itself. It takes the information that it gives out once, how people react to it, to actually make itself better in the future. And that's brilliant.
That's
Now,
amazing.
is it potentially scary? It could be. But again, the thing that is scary about AI is not AI, it's general artificial intelligence rather than specific artificial intelligence. Specific artificial intelligence is not a big issue. If you say, look, I want to draw a perfect square on a piece of paper that is 5 meters by 10 meters, that is specific intelligence. If you say to the person, I want to figure out where to draw it, how to draw it, when to draw it, and all that stuff, that's a different story. That is more general because it means you have to have a broader sense of knowledge. This one is not that threatening to me. It simply is nuts and bolts. where the creativity comes in is still not in the AI, it's in the human who asks the right questions. And that, to me, I am so thankful that that is the case, because I was getting concerned about the whole AI taking over and trying to make decisions.
So, what kind of tools, AI tools, do you use?
You know what? I haven't used any until now because I've been against the idea of helping build a general artificial intelligence. But now that I see that the Deepseek doesn't do that, I'm ready to use it.
What kind of
But
tools
having
does DeepSeek have? What can we use?
you ask it a question, you ask it a question, and it will formulate an answer for you.
Aha, so it's like Chat GPT.
Yeah, it's exactly. So, for instance, I asked a question recently. There is an Amethyst mine I knew about that exists next to Luosto, Lapland, which is up in the Arctic Circle in Finland. And I said, is there an active mine of amethyst in this area? And it searched and it searched and it searched, and it said yes. Then it said, yes, there is a mine actually operating. This is what they do. This is a unique actually selling proposition. So I guess what it must have done is must have read the website and then answered the questions for me. I haven't seen if the answers they put are also the same headings as on the website, but I don't think so. I think they really made it look like it was researched, new. The other question I asked today was, can they compare Jitsi, which is a software we're using right now for the video, and
Hmm.
Zoom? And it gave some information for Jitsi, but didn't have that much. But on Zoom, they actually gave information about how it works, what are the characteristics, and also what have been some of the complaints. And the one comment that I found the most interesting is when it talked about Zoom. It says, I remember that during the pandemic period, people were complaining about the security aspect. I was thinking, oh shit, I remember an AI doing that. That's not really good. But it simply is taking text that actually has been out there to personalize it, I guess. But it's not remembering, essentially creating the storyline and making it look like it's remembered, like a past. So that's my little input today on this one little storyline called Deepseek and my observations. Now, could you use it within the Nikola Tesla Foundations and the work that you want to do? I'm sure you can. So the question is to start figuring out, okay, what are the questions I have, and how could I show progressive future by using some of these tools in a non-threatening way? I think you can. How? I really don't know. And I think the way to break it down is figure, okay, what are the things you want to have in it? And it's not about having everything in it, it's by asking one small slice question at a time. Remember, I said what makes this thing different is that it processes information by small sections rather than by large and then trying to get small. And that's why it's able to function with less cost. My
Okay.
understanding is these AI engines, this is an example, some of them use 670 trillion transactions per second, which sounds incredible. The transactions are always the same. So it's one question, one question, one question, simply confirmation. The models that DeepSeek uses maybe use 30 trillion.
Hmm.
So therefore, it's so much less. It's 20 or 30 times less than the other one. And that's why it doesn't use so much power, doesn't use so much cost infrastructure, and therefore it doesn't need so much work. And that to me is smart use of technology. Now, does this go against the financial model of controlling a marketplace? Yes. And that I'm really happy about, you know, because I think we have to build models that are more friendly to humans.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So, can you tell me more about the place where you live in and what do you do there?
Well, right now I am living in, I said, mid Sweden. Sweden actually, most population is 90% below Stockholm, which is already in the one third bottom of the country. So most people live there. I live actually between Stockholm and Malmo, which is on the bottom. So therefore means halfway distance. I live in a very rural area. So there's farms of either cattle for milk production or meat production, and or forestry. And the reason I'm here is because 2 years ago I participated in a festival that was a week long called the Borderland event that happens on week 30. It's a 1 week event where a whole bunch of people get together and live more true to their true self without necessarily the need to control who they are, limit who they are, or censor their behavior. So people go sometimes a little bit crazy, or they actually act in a way. So they may dress strange, they may act differently, all within respected bounds. But essentially, you have 3,500 modern day hippies. Many of them actually from the technology field, oddly enough. Half of them, I would say, good from technology field, programmers and so on, who basically let loose for a week. This year they had 4,500 people. This year, I mean last year. This year they're probably going to have another probably 5,000 people invited. People come there for a week and they bring their tents to caravans and they actually build events that are meant for the benefit of everyone else. What's nice about this whole event, and I mention this as a relation to where I am because it has why I'm here. This location that they're having this event at is a collective land ownership, meaning it was put together by three people with the intent of being owned by the community, not by individuals. And then that land is then rented out for the purpose of Borderland once a year for week 30. Now, on top of that, we have a lot of other small events taking place. We have weddings taking place there. We have some small groups coming in for environmental, ecological studies. We have sports racing groups. We have all kind of things coming there because they like the area and the fact that they can actually use it. Now, the place is essentially a 100-hectare farm, which about 80% is farmland that is currently being rented to a local farmer. There's about 10% of wood, some water, and two lakes, access to two lakes. The buildings are old barn buildings that have been not taken care of for many years. We're talking about probably 4 or 5 decades, but they're being renovated. And right now, this weekend, in fact, today and the things, they're going to be finishing off taking about 1/4 of the main barn and insulating it so that they could have year-round events taking place there. So the walls have been made thicker, the ceilings, they're putting in new windows, they're going to put 3 toilets, 2 showers, and a full kitchen facility with gray water system, meaning so they can have groups and that will take care of it. Now, this is only for 50 people to 100 people max. The events that we talked about beforehand, those weekly events that are externally, that are the hippie, the weeks with the caravans and the tents, that's not going to be using these facilities. They'll be closed off for that because that we need to bring in toilets. Last year, they brought in 100 porta potty toilets to be able to have the event. So where I'm located now is about 16 kilometers from that location. I'm at a farm that one of the people here I met there while we were building a dock. Dock meaning a wharf onto a lake. They were building a 7-part dock system so that people can go and jump into the water without getting muddy. And that's how I met him. And since then, I asked him, can I stick around because I like this area? He said, sure. So I do some minor work here, and it could be anything. I sometimes use a chainsaw to cut trees. Sometimes I actually use a log splitter. Sometimes I do painting. Sometimes I do mortar work. Sometimes I do concrete, laying of floors. Uh, Sometimes I do insulation. It varies. I do all kind of farm work without farming. There's no farm work as such because the farm has been rented out to a professional farmer. But there's always things to be done to the building.
Okay.
So the locate, and what's kind of fun at this place too is the view here is beautiful. It's a farm that's been, I think, 200 years in this family, and there's a few big buildings or a few, let's say, houses. So there are 3 or 4 families nearby. They are friendly. They eat together sometimes for the special occasions, and other times in the summertime they get together for a barbecue outside. So, and they have, because they've actually renovated the place to be possible for visitors, they have to have an Airbnb with a room for 10 people sleeping, with a full separate kitchen and cinema room. So it's a very friendly life, but not a typical life. It's definitely not city life.
Okay. So how do you like it there?
Well, I do like it, but the reality is I'm going to have to go back and take care of some other situations in real cities in Finland, and then maybe come back here. But it is a very interesting life. Um, but I'm happy to be more quiet. I'm happy to be able to enjoy the nature. I'm happy actually to be in a place where I don't have huge city noises. Now, it means that yes, you don't have the same public transport. There's only 1 or 2 buses from here that actually travel per day, so that's needs to be limited. But then you're about 20 kilometers away from a main train station, and that main train station called Naha, which is Nassjo, different spelling that you would think of, links up both to Stockholm, to Copenhagen, to Malmo, to Gothenburg. So it links up to all the places in Sweden. Very easy travel, and so therefore it's available for people that want to travel easily, but at the same time, it's not city living. Definitely not. So if you want to have the little stores, the bistros, the cafe places, and so on, it's not for you. But if you want to have something that allows you to go fishing on the lake that they actually own here, go in the motorboat. They also do hunting on the site because they have such a big wide area. And there are some natural animals here that grow that don't have limitations. The one animal that seems to be available all year round is boars, which is wild pigs. Now, I'm not a hunter myself, but I would have to admit that eating boar meat is very easy on the stomach, much better than any kind of commercial meat that you would buy in a store.
Okay. Good. All right. So this is it for our short interview. Uh,
Thank you.
would you like to add something to it?
No, no, I'm glad to have helped out. Like I said, you know, all these ideas, I think, if you can use them within Nikola Tesla's foundation,
Hmm.
that's the way to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you
And
very
hopefully, some
much.
of the things that I brought, maybe you will get some ideas.
Oh, sure. Sure. Okay.
Okay.
All
Thanks so
right.
much,
Thank
Maria.
you. Thank you
Okay.
so much. Have
Okay.
a good day.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.